Welcome to the family!
Hey guys, you have McGann, and today I'm going to go over requirements 1A and 1B for the Animation Merit Badge. These requirements are current as of 2020, but if you're watching this video in future years, please be sure that the requirements haven't changed. And before you get started, link below is an animation worksheet that might be very helpful while you're going through this badge. Now keep in mind, it is still up to you to write these things down and send them to your counselor. Saying, hey, I watched this video on YouTube doesn't count as you actually doing the requirement yourself. But let's get started. Requirement 1A, in your own words, describe to your counselor what animation is. And that's pretty simple, so I'm confident that most of you can write that down in your own words, but basically, animation is showing one image after another where they're slightly changed enough to where it makes the illusion of movement. But as far as different types of animation, there is traditional animation where a person hand draws each image until they're put together and it looks like they're moving. Then there's digital 2D animation, which is a lot like the hand-drawn in the way it looks in the final product, but instead of a pencil and paper, you're using digital technology to make the animation happen. 3D animation, which we are all very familiar with these days, that's when you have a program like Maya and you can go in and sculpt your characters and make them as lifelike or cartoony as you want, and it's really the most common form of animation now. Then there's stop motion, which can be anything. It can be objects, it can be claymation, they can use sand, they can use real people. A lot of the special effects that we saw in movies before the 90s, it was done with stop motion effects. But the basic idea of stop motion is that the animator will have a physical object and they move it just a little bit between each frame so that when you put all the frames together like a movie, it gives the illusion of movement. And now for requirement 1B. Discuss with your counselor a brief history of animation. There's a lot of places you could start with this, but I would probably choose 1834 with the invention of the zoetrope. A zoetrope was considered to be a toy where you'd put in this long strip that had slightly different pictures of the same object, and you'd put it in this big wheel and spin it so that when you look through the slits, it looks like an animation. Then in 1900, we started seeing very simplistic animations appear in film alongside live action actors, the first of which was The Enchanted Drawing. In 1908, Phantasmagoria is released. This is a French film that was the first fully animated movie with no human actors present. 1914 gave us Gertie the Dinosaur by Winsor McCay. And what's really interesting about these older cartoons is that they hadn't made the peg bar yet. And a peg bar is a little strip, usually of plastic now, that has these little notches in it. And if you've ever seen animation paper, it has holes in it to fit in the peg bar. And what those do is keep the paper nice and even so that each page you put down is going to be in the exact same place as the last. So when you watch something really old like Gertie the Dinosaur, you'll notice the background kind of shakes a little bit. And that's because they didn't have the peg bar yet, so not only were the papers not aligned, but they really hadn't thought about cell paper and making backgrounds different from the character that's in motion. So every single frame in an animation like Gertie the Dinosaur was drawn from scratch. And fun fact, Gertie the Dinosaur is still remembered today and can be seen in Hollywood studios at Disney World. 1915, John Randolph Bray patented the pegboard system. 1919, we have the first recurring animated star with Felix the Cat. 1923, Walter Elias Disney experiments with animation by making the Alice comedies, which were a number of shorts where a live-action little girl goes into an animated world. 1926, German artist Lotte Reiniger creates the first ever full-length animated film with the stop-motion piece The Adventures of Prince Ahmed. 1928, Mickey Mouse appears to the world in Plain Crazy. Shortly after that, also in 1928, Steamboat Willie hit theaters, which was the first animation to use synchronized sound. Before that, cartoons and movies came with sheet music that an organ or piano player at the theater would have to study and perform live for every single audience. An interesting tidbit, Mickey Mouse was originally a very bratty character. He only changed changed into a sweet, fun, wholesome family icon after so many parents complained to Disney that their kids were acting bratty just because they saw Mickey Mouse doing it on screen. 1933, the live-action movie King Kong impresses the world with its realistic stop-motion animation. It may look kinda silly today, but we've seen so much advancement in technology we can't even fathom what this looked like new. 1937, after being told his short cartoon films can't earn him more money at the box office, Walt Disney releases Snow White, the first 2D animated full-length feature film. 1960, The Flintstones become the first animated series to air in a primetime slot. That means the show was seen as being made for the entire family and not just little kids. 1963, Astro Boy becomes Japan's first anime series. 1985, Will Vinton releases The Adventures of Mark Twain, which is the first feature-length claymation film. 1988, special effects reach new heights as Roger Rabbit incorporates cartoon characters into the real world. 1993, Jurassic Park dazzles theaters across the planet with their extremely realistic mix of animatronics, stop motion, and computer-animated dinosaurs. 1994, the Canadian series Reboot premieres on ABC's Saturday mornings as the first ever all-CGI animated show. 1995, Pixar hits the scene with Toy Story, the first CGI feature-length movie. And for the 2000s and beyond, movies are making more impressive animated projects every day. And it's everything from fun cartoons to superheroes to lifelike creatures like the Na'vi in Avatar, Dobby in Harry Potter, Gollum in Lord of the Rings, and thousands of other characters. While most studios have transitioned to computer-based effects, there are still some companies using puppets like The Dark Crystal and The Mandalorian. And of course, I have to mention the stop-motion companies like Laika, who made Coraline, Paranorman, Missing Link, Kubo and the Two Strings, and Box Trolls, so really good high-quality stuff. So there you have it. We have covered requirement 1B. As a counselor myself, I wouldn't expect scouts to write everything I just said word for word, but have a ballpark of what's going on when. And of course, if you can do any more research and add anything else on your own, please do that. We love to see things added in and see that you're doing the work and having fun with it. So that's my overview of requirements 1A and 1B for the Animation Merit Badge. And I have another video coming to go over requirement 2. So check that out to hear an overview of the 12 principles of animation. Or if all you needed was the requirement 1 info, then thanks for watching and maybe we'll see you again soon.